Stop using coconut oil on your scalp right now if you have dandruff. You could be making the problem much worse without even knowing it. The dandruff dilemma. Understanding what dandruff is. First, let's talk about what dandruff really is. It's something most of us have dealt with at some point, but do you know what's actually causing it? Dandruff is primarily caused by an overgrowth of a fungus called Malassezia. This fungus naturally lives on everyone's scalp and in normal amounts. It doesn't cause any problems. However, when it starts to grow out of control, it leads to the symptoms we recognize as dandruff: flaking, itching, and irritation. Now here's the thing. Malassezia feeds on the natural oils or sebum that our scalp produces. Sebum is meant to keep our skin and hair moisturized, but when there's too much of it, it can create the perfect breeding ground for this fungus to live. The more oil your scalp produces, the more Malassezia has to feed on, and the worse your dandruff can get. So, contrary to popular belief, an oily scalp isn't just a cosmetic issue. It's a key factor in why dandruff happens in the first place. How coconut oil interacts with your scalp. Now let's get into how coconut oil plays into this. Coconut oil is composed of medium-chain fatty acids, like lauric acid, which have been praised for their health benefits. These fatty acids can penetrate the hair shaft, providing deep conditioning and moisturizing effects. Because of this, coconut oil has become a popular go-to for all sorts of hair care issues, including dandruff. However, there's a catch. When you apply coconut oil to your scalp, you're essentially creating a thick, oily barrier that traps moisture and heat. This can be a good thing for dry hair, but if you have dandruff, it can actually make the problem worse. The oil provides a warm, moist environment that Malassezia loves, especially giving it more of what it needs to grow. So, while you might think you're helping your scalp by adding moisture, you're actually making it easier for the fungus to thrive. Why most people turn to coconut oil for dandruff relief. It's easy to see why so many people turn to coconut oil for dandruff relief. For years, we've heard that coconut oil has antifungal properties, which is true to some extent. It does contain compounds that can help reduce certain types of fungal infections. Because of this, people assume that applying coconut oil to the scalp will help combat dandruff caused by the Malassezia fungus. This has led to a widespread belief that coconut oil is a natural remedy for dandruff. But here's where the misconception lies. While coconut oil might have antifungal properties, it also has a high fat content that can act as food for the Malassezia. So, while it might help in some cases, it can actually make things worse in others, especially if your scalp is already oily or if your dandruff is particularly active. The hidden truth. Coconut oil's double-edged sword. Here's the hidden truth about coconut oil. It's a double-edged sword when it comes to dandruff. On one hand, its antifungal properties could potentially help reduce the growth of Malassezia. On the other hand, by applying it to an already oily scalp, you're providing the fungus with more of what it needs to thrive. It's like trying to put out a fire with a small amount of water while accidentally adding fuel at the same time. This paradoxical effect is why many people find that their dandruff doesn't improve or even worsens when they use coconut oil. So, if you've been using coconut oil thinking it's a miracle cure for your dandruff, it's important to understand that it could actually be contributing to the problem. It's not that coconut oil is bad for everyone, it's just not the best option for treating dandruff, especially when there are other treatments specifically designed to target the fungus without providing it with more fuel. The sebum-fungus connection. What you need to know. Let's start with the basics. Sebum. Sebum is the natural oil that your scalp produces to keep your skin and hair moisturized. While it's completely normal and necessary for scalp health, too much of it can create problems. The main issue arises when excess sebum provides an ideal environment for Malassezia, the fungus responsible for dandruff, to grow. This fungus feeds on the oils on your scalp, breaking them down into substances that can irritate the skin, leading to flaking, itching, and inflammation. When your scalp produces an excess amount of sebum, it creates a warm, moist environment that Malassezia thrives in. This is why people with oily scalps are often more prone to dandruff. The more oil there is, the more food the fungus has, and the more rapidly it can multiply. This makes it clear that managing oil production on your scalp is crucial if you're trying to control dandruff. So, what happens when you add more oil, like coconut oil, to your scalp? Well, you're essentially giving the fungus even more to feed on. Even though coconut oil is often praised for its natural antifungal properties, its high fat content can actually provide extra nourishment to the Malassezia fungus, exacerbating the problem rather than solving it. While the idea of using oil to moisturize and protect the scalp might seem logical, in the case of dandruff, it can be counterproductive. Common missteps: applying oil when dandruff is active. A lot of people make the mistake of applying oil when their dandruff is active, thinking it will soothe the scalp or provide moisture. Unfortunately, this can lead to the opposite effect. When you apply oil to a scalp that is already dealing with a dandruff flare-up, you're trapping moisture and heat, which can further irritate the skin and increase the rate at which the fungus multiplies. This often leads to more flakes, more itching, and an overall worsening of the condition. The problem with applying oil when dandruff is active is that it creates a vicious cycle. You put oil on the scalp to try to reduce flakiness, but the oil nourishes the fungus, causing it to grow more. This leads to even more dandruff, prompting you to apply even more oil and so on. It's important to understand when to use oil and when not to. If you notice your scalp is oily and your dandruff is flaring up, it's best to avoid any additional oil until the condition is under control. Alternatives to coconut oil. What actually works? Instead of relying on oils that make the problem worse, there are other scientifically proven alternatives that can effectively target dandruff at its source. Shampoos containing active ingredients like ketoconazole, zinc pyrithione, or selenium sulfide are specifically formulated to combat dandruff. Ketoconazole, for instance, is an antifungal agent that helps reduce the growth of Malassezia directly on the scalp. Zinc pyrithione works by slowing down the growth of yeast and fungi, while also calming the scalp and reducing irritation. Selenium sulfide targets the yeast responsible for dandruff and reduces scalp flakiness by lowering the rate at which your skin cells die and flake off. These ingredients have been clinically tested and proven to be effective in treating dandruff without the risk of feeding the fungus with extra oils. They work by attacking the fungus directly, reducing inflammation, and helping to restore the natural balance of your scalp. Incorporating these treatments into your routine can help manage dandruff more effectively and prevent the need for counterproductive measures like applying oil. The correct way to use coconut oil, if at all. If you still want to use coconut oil for your hair, even after knowing its potential downsides for dandruff, there are some guidelines you should follow. First and foremost, avoid applying coconut oil directly to your scalp, especially if your dandruff is currently flaring up. Instead, focus on using it sparingly, only on the lengths and ends of your hair. This can provide some moisturizing benefits without feeding the fungus that causes dandruff on your scalp. When applying coconut oil, opt for cold-pressed coconut oil, as it retains more of its natural nutrients and is less processed. You can use a small amount to gently coat the ends of your hair, which can help prevent split ends and add shine without affecting your scalp. Try applying it once a week or even less frequently, depending on how your hair responds. Always make sure to thoroughly rinse out the oil to avoid any residue buildup that could contribute to further scalp issues. Remember, the key is to use it minimally and avoid any contact with the scalp. Signs coconut oil is not for you. What to look out for. It's also important to pay attention to how your scalp reacts when you use coconut oil. If you notice that your dandruff seems to be getting worse, or if you experience increased itching, redness, or flakiness, these are signs that coconut oil may not be suitable for you. Some people might find that their scalp becomes more irritated or inflamed after using coconut oil, which could be due to its heavy nature or because it creates a barrier that traps moisture and heat. If you start noticing any of these symptoms after using coconut oil, it's best to stop using it immediately and see if your scalp condition improves. Dandruff can be tricky, and what works for one person may not work for another. Being mindful of how your scalp feels and looks after trying new products is key to finding the right routine for you. Keep an eye out for any changes, and don't hesitate to switch to a different product if you suspect coconut oil is making things worse. The ultimate dandruff care routine. What dermatologists recommend. So, what should you do instead? Dermatologists typically recommend a specific routine to manage dandruff effectively. The first step is to use a medicated shampoo that contains active ingredients like ketoconazole, zinc pyrithione, or selenium sulfide. These ingredients have been proven to reduce dandruff by targeting the fungus and calming the scalp. Using these shampoos regularly, as directed, is essential for keeping dandruff under control. Another key tip is to avoid using heavy oils, like coconut oil, on the scalp, especially during an active dandruff flare-up. Instead, focus on keeping your scalp clean and free from excess oil. Washing your hair regularly with a gentle anti-dandruff shampoo can help maintain scalp hygiene and prevent the buildup of oils and flakes. Make sure to rinse your scalp thoroughly to remove all shampoo residues that might irritate your skin. In addition to using the right products, maintaining a balanced diet and managing stress levels can also help prevent dandruff. Staying hydrated, eating foods rich in vitamins and minerals, and getting enough sleep all contribute to a healthier scalp. Also, avoid scratching your scalp, as it can aggravate the skin and lead to more flaking. To wrap up, while coconut oil may work wonders for some hair concerns, it's definitely not the cure-all for dandruff. In fact, it can make things worse if used incorrectly. Understanding the root cause of dandruff and using the right treatments are key to a healthy, flake-free scalp. So, think twice before you reach for that jar of coconut oil. Your scalp will thank you.